Monday, June 7. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Today, June 7, is being recognized as World Food Safety Day. The Jamaican government continues to support the World Health Organization and the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization's call for safe food now for a healthy tomorrow. In his official address to mark the day, WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, says more than 450,000 people die from food contamination every year. However, at the local level, veterinary specialist in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Dr. Suzanne McLennan-Miguel, says government agencies have been working collectively to eliminate the risk of food contamination in the island. Dr. McLennan-Miguel discussed the strategy while addressing a JIS think tank about planned activities for World Food Safety Day. The WHO boss says more than 600 million people fall ill from contaminated food each year, and children are the most vulnerable. He says this can be prevented with a global collective will to ensure the distribution of safe and nutritious food.
At the same time, agriculture and food producers need to adapt good practices, and businesses must make sure food is safe. When food safety is improved, we reduce hunger, malnutrition, and infant mortality. Children miss fewer days at school. Adults increase their productivity, and the strain on health systems is reduced.
Meanwhile, veterinary specialist Dr. Susan McLennan-Miguel says Jamaica has established a food control system based on international guidelines.
We even have a committee that was organized, a National Agriculture, Health and Food Safety Committee. And we worked on a document called the Food Control Manual, where we bring all the legislation that governs the production and processing of food in this country, both to import it, looking at the regulations and the policies that govern it. And then we realized that all of these need to be updated. So each ministry has the mandate to look back at these and to update all of these ministries. However, we do have code of practices, and the Codex Alimentarius Commission, which is, as I told you, the standard setting body for food safety. So they have guidelines and standards that Jamaica also sits on these expert committees. And we develop these code of practices, and we take these code of practices and help develop both our manuals and teaching programs and regulations to make Jamaica's food safe.
The veterinary specialist says it's a multi-linked, risk-based assessment which starts from local farms and ports.
And so we have to work together. We sit with the big committees and work together to come up with plans and strategies, how we are able to communicate, that's the key, and work together, creating joint inspections. And this is happening right now at the ports. Once you're importing products into the country and customs is alerted to the products, then they call both ministries of agriculture and health and wellness, and we do a joint inspection.
She explains that local farmers are taught food safety practices and record keeping of fertilizers, water treatment, and more.
We look at plants and animals and the fishing sector, where we are detecting, we are monitoring, we are inspecting, we are testing. So we take samples and we carry it to our accredited labs, and we are putting corrective measures in place. All these form our food control system. And this is part of giving confidence to Jamaican consumers that the food that is being prepared by our farmers is one that is not only regulated by ministries, not just Ministry of Agriculture, but other ministries, but that the farmers themselves have embraced food safety systems. And with that, we are encouraged and continue to encourage everyone that they need to put in place all these practices, the food safety practices, the food safety measures, continue to do them.
According to Dr. McLennan Miguel, citizens must be aware of how they can play their part in food safety locally. You can learn more by joining the World Food Safety Day webinar on all Agriculture and Health Ministry websites from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. today. The move to merge the functions of the Agricultural Marketing Corporation, AMC, under the Agro Investment Corporation, AIC, has been approved. The Senate passed the Agro Investment Corporation Amendment Act on Friday to legalize the move. Merging the functions of the Agricultural Marketing Corporation, AMC, under the Agro Investment Corporation, AIC, is part of the government's Public Sector Master Rationalization Plan to create a more effective and efficient public sector. Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Leslie Campbell, who piloted the bill, describes the Agro Investment Corporation as an agricultural and investment facility, advisory and management company that functions as the business facilitation department in the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries.
The term agro-invest covers the investment chain from the identification of opportunities through feasibility studies, due diligence and business planning, to fundraising, project management, long-term business performance monitoring, and technical support. Mr. President, the Agricultural Marketing Corporation was established under the Agricultural Marketing Corporation Act 1963 in order to establish and maintain an efficient system of marketing for agricultural produce by securing the most favorable arrangements for the purchase, handling, sale, and exportation of agricultural produce pursuant to Section 4 of the said Act. However, since 2009, the Agricultural Marketing Corporation has been without a board of directors or any management staff, during which time its operations have been undertaken by the Agro Investment Corporation.
He says the AIC has been steering the AMC since 2009, and a formalized merging would improve the management of the corporation.
This position is further justified on the ground that the Agro Investment Corporation has been conducting the functions of the Agricultural Marketing Corporation, which has been without a board since 2009. The proposed amendment to the Agro Investment Corporation Act will seek to increase the efficiency of the board in light of the expansion of the functions of the corporation. This would result in better management of the corporation in accordance with the requirements of the Financial Administration and Audit Act and the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act.
A formalized merger will see work being done to increase Agro Investment Corporation membership and diversifying the qualifications and skill sets of its members. St. James's second COVID-19 vaccination blitz will focus on tourism workers, and the parish manager of the St. James Health Department, Lennox Wallace, believes that the parish will surpass the vaccination numbers that were recorded during the previous blitz in April. Boosting the immunity of tourism workers is important as Jamaicans and foreigners flock to the beaches and hospitality venues for the summer, especially with the ban on public beaches and rivers now lifted. The mass vaccination event is scheduled to take place later this month. Ground has been broken for yet another luxury residential offering. This time, it's the Hambani Estates on Bamboo Avenue. Prime Minister Andrew Holness was a key speaker at Saturday's launch. Marlon Samuels provides the details in this next report.
The First Rock Capital Holdings are the drivers behind the development Hambani Estates. According to co-founder and CEO Ryan Reid, the move indicates business confidence in Jamaica's economy.
First Rock has as its mandate the business of real estate, which includes real estate development. We have a lot of confidence in the Jamaican economy, and that's squarely represented in our asset allocation strategy. Roughly about 60% of our total assets are here in Jamaica. We said it When we formed this company a couple of years ago, we said it day one that we will always bet on Jamaica. And I believe what you're seeing here today is First Rock betting on Jamaica.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed the national benefits that such investment bring.
The area will be transformed. But more than that, an asset that sat here for years unutilized will be fully utilized. And it will bring economic value to Jamaica. And that is how we get growth. When assets that are not utilized are paired with entrepreneurs, people who have vision to see what the unutilized asset could be, and people who have capital, people who have resources tied up in savings, who are willing to take it and invest.
Mr. Holness urged the country not to view business and entrepreneurship with suspicion.
The society oftentimes see, business as only getting rewards that are internal to the business, and there is no real national benefit. That could not be further from the truth. It is time that every single Jamaican embrace our business people, embrace our entrepreneurs, embrace those persons who would take the risk of investing their capital. Because, believe it or not, Jamaica, in my opinion, is probably the most entrepreneurial country with the most entrepreneurial people in this region.
According to developers, the design intent is to create the feeling of a Jamaican villa, but with the modern amenities and features typical of a Kingston residence. The estates are a low-density development, one aimed at creating a luxury oasis in the heart of the Ligonier area. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Time now to get the latest market details and news in the Business Report with Gabriel Thompson.
In Friday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 1,362 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 91 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 39 declined, and 13 traded firm. The junior market index declined by 10 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Students Living Jamaica, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica, and Elite Diagnostic Limited. Carreras Limited was the volume leader with 10.2 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with 5.1 million units, and Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 1.5 million units. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, June 4, the US dollar sold for an average $149.71. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $124.73. The pound sterling traded for $213.22, and the euro sold for an average $184.22. In market data for oil, Brent crude futures fell 41 cents to settle at $71.48 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slid 37 cents to settle at $69.25 a barrel. And on that note, we close this Monday edition of the Business Report inside the news on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, we begin in Guyana. The Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Water Incorporated on Friday said there needs to be better understanding of the company's decision to fire more than 150 workers within a 3-month span. Gordon Mosley reports.
It is not a decision of the management alone. The management
with the guidance of the board, had the task of ensuring that this exercise was done in a fair, transparent manner.
At the press conference today, the CEO also said the process to remove over 150 workers from the water company is necessary, since the company cannot sustain the large employment costs. It was the second time within a week that Mr. Baksh appeared before the media to defend the state-owned company's decision to send home more than 150 workers. His comments today came one day after the former managing director and CEO of the company, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, said the company is operating at a profit and GWI regional offices are raking enough revenue to cover staff salaries. But the current CEO said the management of GWI undertook a restructuring and staffing rationalization plan to ensure greater efficiency and productivity in the company's operations. He maintains that due process has been followed in terminating the employees.
Due process was followed. The board of directors of GWI was integrally involved in all the decision processes leading up to this termination in accordance with the Termination of Employment Act.
According to the CEO, the dismissals are being done in a fair and transparent manner.
So we have reached the point where a number of employees will have to be severed in order to ensure a highly efficient organization.
The Executive Human Resource Director at GWI, Elvis Jordan, said the termination of the staff members would not affect the overall performance of the water company.
This process that we are embarking on in terms of reorganizing, it was a well-thought-out process that involved all the technical department, the managers, the regional management, the directors. It's not a case where the HR sat and come up with this decision. We will have factored into this exercise most of the work process, the programs of the company before we came up to this decision.
And GWI has called in the Special Organized Crime Unit and auditors to probe what the CEO said were some financial irregularities at the company. Meanwhile, 76 of the more than 150 persons earmarked to be severed have already received their dismissal letters. The workers were told that the company is going through major restructuring. Some of the workers have been in the company's employ for more than 5 years, others for more than 10.
The fertile lands at Cas-on-Bass in St. Lucia continue to yield cultural finds as a team of archaeologists unearthed more artifacts at the site. We have more in this report.
Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. This quote by Edmund Burke forms part of the basis behind the aggressive move to uncover the historical and cultural history at the archaeologically sensitive site at Cas-on-Bass. The second visit to the site by archaeologist Dr. Reginald Murphy was done in collaboration with volunteers and members of the St. Lucia National Trust.
We didn't find any of any more skeletons other than what was previously found and are housed with the Archaeological and Historical Society. But we did find a substantial amount of artifacts which helped us to look at the diets of what persons were eating there. We know that they were eating marine species, but we were surprised that some of the species that they were eating, including what St. Lucians know as chip, they seem to be consuming a large amount of chip and buigo.
Intricate pieces of pottery and decorative bird figurines were found at the site. Corporate Services Manager at the St. Lucia National Trust, Janine Compton-Antoine, asserts that the site is teeming with relics waiting to be found by archaeologists. Another volunteer describes the experience of discovering historical artifacts of national importance.
It was great just to be able to dig up artifacts that have been in the ground for like 600 years. Like my colleague was saying, you understand a little bit more about the Amerindians, what they ate, what they did, and their lifestyle. It was very intriguing.
The Cas-on-Bass site is believed to be one of the first locations of the Kalinago or Carib tribe's earliest interactions with colonizers many years ago.
The site is giving us an increasing amount of information and awareness about how our Kalinago ancestors were living in St. Lucia. And also this site, although it's a pre-Columbian site, it is known to be a possible contact site between Europeans and the Kalinago.
Compton Antoine challenges the government of St. Lucia and Cabot St. Lucia to ensure the protection of the sensitive site through a collaborative effort with the St. Lucia National Trust to develop an enclave for future learning and discovery that visitors, the public, and students can utilize for research purposes.
That the government of St. Lucia should designate that area as a site of learning and memory, and have an interpretation center, constructed there that would house the artifacts, the skeletons that were found on site, and also allow it to be a living area so that students, for example, from Sir Arthur, Form 5 students doing the SBAs, can actually come in and do research. So the social studies students can come in and look at possible cultural aspects, dietary needs, dietary requirements, what persons were utilizing in that area, looking at, for example, the botanical species that presently exist there and were they being utilized by the Kalinago during that time period. Also, allowing persons who may be interested in archaeology to learn the aspects of doing an archaeological dig on site. So I think that really and truly that the government should work in collaboration with the developer and the general public to have that area set aside for the benefits of St. Lucians and for the visitors as well, who can also engage in and fully immerse themselves in the history of St. Lucia.
The trust says that the archaeological priority area is located largely within the Queen's Chain, and more archaeological investigations are required to unearth the history of St. Lucia. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
During trying times, Trinbagonians are stepping up to help those in need. Sunil Lala tells us of just a few examples of persons assisting with what they can during this pandemic.
During the flooding event in 2018, you may remember the Kalpu brothers sailing in to assist in getting families to safety.
Don't worry, we got you.
And during the pandemic, especially with a steady increase in cases and many affected due to lockdown measures, Trinis have rose to the challenge to ensure many reach the other side. Take, for example, brothers Nicholas and Shane Daniel, along with their cousin Kerry Imamdi, all part-time farmers whose social media posts exploded when they decided to donate 2,000 pounds of watermelon earlier this week to anyone in the country. According to Nicholas Daniel, what followed was scores of phone calls, working with at least 3 NGOs, churches and even their MP in Sangre Grande to assist in donating the items to residents in need.
The country is in a hard state at this point, and we decided that we would like to help out in some little way that we could have, and this is what we came up with. I would definitely say that this goes to show that there are good people out here.
Meanwhile, Balram Das, owner of Ringleader Used Cars and Wrecking Service, decided to offer his towing service free of charge to essential workers who may be in need.
Them is the one that risking the family life, risking their life to come out here and provide a service to save lives. And I think that they need the assistance right now. So I think money is not all. Life is more important right now.
And earlier this week, a social media user recalled witnessing an act of kindness when R&N Poultry Depot in Debe gave away a free chicken to a man who was unable to afford it. She said this warmed her heart after seeing a smile on the man's face and wondered that many other families may also be experiencing hard times. The social media user is urging all to give what they can, as little as they can, to help anyone who needs assistance. Sonolala, TTT News.
In sports, we're on track with athletics. The world is still reeling from Jamaican sprint star Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce's world-leading 10.63 seconds for the 100 meters at the Olympic Destiny Meet in Kingston. With this run, Fraser-Pryce is now the fastest woman alive and the second fastest in history. This performance was the capstone for an overall impressive meet. Melvin Pennant gives us the details.
Awesome. That's how Jamaica Olympic Association Director Robert Scott described last Saturday's Olympic Destiny meet.
Truly awesome day. I am extremely pleased. We saw world-class performance. We saw athletes getting funding that will help them to do really well as they go forward. We could not have asked for a better day.
It was a day of credible performances both on and off track. Geneve Russell ran within range of her season's best to stop the clock at 54.88 in the women's 400-meter hurdles. Current world long jump champion Tajay Gale was also on display, but this was the performance from the pocket rocket Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce that set the meet and the world of athletics ablaze.
Natasha Morrison trying to chase Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce away and clear. Look at that!
Sprinter Sherika Jackson and Yannick Thompson were among the athletes that received cash funding. These series of meets are designed to prepare Jamaica's team to the Tokyo Olympics. The national team will be stationed at a training camp in Tottori, Japan.
The training camp in Tottori, Japan will be set just a few weeks before the actual Olympics itself, and it will be able to allow our athletes to get that very fine edge that they need. Certainly the partnership between Tottori and Jamaica has extended for some period of time, and with the continued support of the Jamaica Olympic Association and our partners in Tottori, we're looking for even better performances in this Olympics.
Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
And before we run off, a big thank you, as usual, to the entire production team for keeping us on track. You've just watched the news on PBCJ, the People's Station.